Anderson. We're here with Matt Morris, Surprise Fire Department. He's going to give us a little bit of insight on his personal experience. So Matt, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Cole. I'm just here to tell you about my personal experience I had with drinking and driving. About 5 years ago, I was out with some friends, ended up kind of going from one place to another, and it was a short distance, like less than a mile. Felt fine. I was driving. I ended up being pulled over by a police officer, and honestly, I still wasn't even scared about the situation. I knew that I'd been drinking, but I didn't think I'd had close to enough to get in trouble for it. So during the interview, I was honest with him. Told him how much I'd had altogether. He ended up asking me to come out and do some field sobriety tests. He told me later that I passed all of his tests except the horizontal nystagmus, which they do with the pen and make your eyes go back and forth, which is unbeatable if you've been drinking to a certain level. So I was arrested. I was taken to the jail for that city where they just did their processing stuff, and I was able to make a phone call and have somebody pick me up. So that was pretty much the situation of the night that it happened. After that, I'll just get into some of the stuff that happened over the next couple years. It's a long process. I ended up getting a lawyer just so that I didn't get, for lack of a better word, railroaded by the justice process. I wasn't trying to say I wasn't guilty or anything like that. I just wanted help along the way to facilitate paperwork and the court process. So that ended up costing me about $5,000, which was half price because I knew somebody that worked for a lawyer. My fines altogether totaled over $5,000. I had to take some classes over a period of a couple months that cost me probably another $2,000. My car was impounded for 30 days, which cost me $700. So you could see that these costs start to add up really fast. So it was definitely a financial burden for quite a long time for me. So that was the second part of it. Coming back to my career, it's obviously not looked highly upon that something like that would happen to one of their firefighters. So that's actually even harder than the financial burden for me. It was the embarrassment and I don't know, I felt like I let a lot of people down. One of those ways was I was no longer allowed to drive the fire truck, which the way that our city works, I used to be certified to move up and drive the fire truck and use the pump anytime they needed me to. So I went through a 1-year process where I couldn't drive at all. And then they made me go through all the testing again to make sure I was competent to do the job, so I'm able to drive again. But there was a year period there where I was less of an asset to my department and my crew, where I couldn't help them out if that situation arose. So that was, one of the embarrassing things, and I felt like I let a lot of people down. I was also suspended for 2 days without pay, and I was put on house arrest through the court system for 19 days. So I had to figure out using my vacation time, and we have what's called an AWR, where somebody works my shift for me and I pay them back at another time. So I had to use some of those, and I had to figure those days out for myself. And you earned a lot of vacation time just so I could sit at home and have an anklet on my ankle. So you can see this whole process from one night of fun turned into it took about 2.5, 3 years to get everything situated and finalized where I was done paying. And I actually also had to spend 1 day. So the reason all that happened, going back to the beginning of the story, was I said I felt like I was okay. I really hadn't had a lot to drink. And when I blew into the PBT test, I think I was at 0.15, which is quite a ways over the 0.08, which I was floored by. And I think the police officer was actually floored by it too. And then they took my blood at the police station. That came back through the court system at 0.16. So I was actually double the legal limit, and I felt fine. So it can be really deceiving And the classes that they took, they tried to tell us about metabolism and how many drinks you can have before you're to that limit. And there really is no science to it. It depends on your body. It depends on how much you've eaten that day, and how your liver processes alcohol. There's a whole bunch of factors that go in that you could never do the math while you're sitting at a bar having a couple beers. So that's one thing to be cautious about. I was going somewhere else with that point. Oh, I think one important thing too that I learned is they say everybody in the state of Arizona and all around the U.S. really, whoever has that .08 limit, it really means nothing. We have what's called a impaired to the slightest degree, which means if you go out to dinner and have one beer with your burger, you get an offender bender, they make you blow, and it's .04. But that police officer has reason to believe that you're impaired to the slightest degree, you're still getting a DUI. So it'll probably be dumbed down to reckless driving, but the fact is it's going to go on your record as a DUI, and it's 8 points off your license, and you're suspended for a while. So there's a myth about that. The .08 just means you are legally drunk and they can't arrest you. But anywhere below that, if you blow anything, you can actually be arrested for a DUI. So that's something important to keep in mind. Other than that, that was my experience. It took a long time, a lot of money, a lot of embarrassment, but got through it, and I'm fully functional at work now, and definitely a lot more cautious about any drinking habits if I go out and do something. And
Hello, I'm Esteban Martinez, and we're here with Captain Zimmerman, and he's going to be talking to you guys about impaired driving. So take it away.
Yeah. Well, as you guys just heard from Matt's story, impaired driving, it doesn't care if you're a congressman all the way down to a construction worker, a police officer, or a firefighter. It affects all of us, and where Matt's story was tragic personally to him, where it messed with his career, it messed with his reputation, it messed with him financially. Obviously, as firefighters, we get to see the other side of what it messes with on a regular basis, and that's innocent people being extremely hurt, killed, or disabled because somebody thought that they were okay to drive, or they had one too many, or they were taking some other substance that they thought would be fun for the night and get behind the wheel of a vehicle. I don't want to get into all the individual stories of the stuff we've seen, but along with the families that have lost their children or their sons or their daughters or their wives or husbands, as firefighters, we take a little piece of each one of those home with us that we carry on to even our own families with some PTSD stuff, or just not being totally present with our kids, or when you see an older person that dies from a heart attack or something like that, there's your brain can make some sort of sense of it, that they lived a long life and that these are the things that happen. But when you see tragic accidents and people being disabled from just stupidity, it has such a far-reaching wake that there's almost no telling how many people that one decision you made that one night can hurt. That's just my 2 cents on it from the fire department standpoint.
Greg Science, certified Uber driver. That's all I can say.
Solid.
All right, Mr. Signs. So go ahead and tell us how long you've been doing Uber.
I'm a pretty new Uber driver, but I've been doing it pretty consistently for about 7-8 months now.
Well, that's solid. Do you do it all the time, or is there like a certain amount or certain time of the day that you do it?
Oh, it's definitely a part-time gig for me, but I'm pretty busy with baseball a lot, so whenever I get a free chance, sometimes in the night, the weekends, whenever I got time.
It's understandable. Is that about what time it's usually like the busiest?
Oh, it's definitely the busiest Friday, Saturday nights, for sure.
Make a pretty good amount of money doing it?
I make a decent living, I guess you call it.
Decent living? Solid. All right, Mr. Sines, moving on to kind of a more serious topic now. How many drunk people or intoxicated people do you say you take home per night?
Wow, I guess it definitely matters about the time of day and what day of the week it is, but I would have to say if I'm going Friday, Saturday night, I can almost guarantee that just about every, if not any ride I take on Friday and Saturday night, there's going to be a drunk person somewhere in my car.
Well, that's good. Do you feel good about yourself when you take these guys home knowing that they're not driving themselves?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great way for people who want to go out and have a good time and make sure that they don't get behind a wheel and end up killing someone else, you know? It's good for them just to call an Uber, spend just a little extra money. You've already spent enough money on alcohol. Spend a little extra, be safe, and don't kill anybody.
Exactly. That's a good point. Well, guys, you heard it first. Certified Uber driver Greg Sines here with me. Solid.